The lad was quiet except for the hum of machines. Dr. Alan Morrison looked at the clock on the wall. It was almost midnight, but he wanted to finish one more test before going home. He had been working on this project for 3 years now. The goal was to create stronger metals for spaceships. Alan adjusted the settings on his high-pressure chamber. This machine could squeeze metals harder than anything else on Earth. He was trying something new tonight, mixing 3 rare elements under extreme pressure. The computer predicted it might create an interesting alloy. "Are you still here?" Kate Williams walked into the lab with 2 cups of coffee. She was Alan's research assistant and often stayed late too. "Just one more test," Alan said, taking the coffee with a grateful smile. "This combination looks promising." Kate checked the computer readings. "The pressure levels are higher than yesterday. Be careful." Alan nodded and started the process. The chamber sealed with a hiss. Inside, the metal samples glowed as the pressure increased. Everything was going as planned until the power meter suddenly spiked. "That's not right," Kate said, pointing at the screen. The power draw just doubled. Before Alan could respond, the lights flickered. A loud pop came from the electrical panel, and sparks showered from the ceiling. The lab went dark for 3 seconds before emergency lights came on. "Power surge," Alan said, moving quickly to the chamber. "We need to check for damage." When they opened the chamber, both scientists stared in surprise. The metal sample should have been melted or damaged by the power surge. Instead, it looked perfect, a small silvery disk that gleamed under the lights. "That's impossible," Kate whispered. "That surge was at least 20 times what this sample should handle." Ellen carefully removed the disk with special tongs. It was cool to the touch, which made no sense. It should have been hot enough to melt the tongs. "The energy went somewhere," Alan said. "But where?" They spent the next hour running basic tests. Each result was more surprising than the last. The metal absorbed energy without heating up. It distributed the energy across its surface and then released it slowly and harmlessly. "We need to try something more direct," Alan said finally. He set up a simple experiment, pointing a small laser at the metal disc. The laser beam hit the surface but did nothing. No heat, no damage. "Increase power," Alan told Kate. She doubled the laser's strength, then tripled it. Still nothing. Lisa Patterson, their engineering specialist, arrived early the next morning to find Alan and Kate still running tests. "You two look terrible," she said. "Have you been here all night?" Alan handed her the metal disc. "We've discovered something, Lisa. Something big." Over the next week, the 3 scientists ran every test they could think of. The results were always the same. The metal, which they started calling absorbium, could absorb almost any form of energy without damage. "Do you understand what this means?" Alan asked during a private meeting in his office. "This metal makes energy weapons useless. Lasers, plasma, even nuclear radiation. It absorbs everything." "We need to be careful about who knows this," Kate said. "This kind of discovery could change everything." Lisa nodded. "Military applications alone would be worth billions, but there's more to it than weapons. Think about radiation shielding for space travel, or safety systems for power plants." Alan looked at his 2 colleagues. "For now, we keep this between us. We need to understand exactly what we found before we tell anyone else." As they left the office, none of them noticed the blinking light on the security camera. None of them knew that their discovery had already been noticed by people far away from Earth. 6 months passed since Alan, Kate, and Lisa discovered absorbium. They worked in secret, learning more about the strange metal each day. Few people knew about their work. The government provided funding but asked for silence. Then everything changed on a Tuesday morning. Commander Jack Franklin stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Liberty. He had been in space for 15 years and thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. "Sir, we're picking up something big entering the solar system," said Officer Ben Clark. Jack looked at the screen. A group of objects was moving toward Earth, faster than any human ship. "How many?" Jack asked. "7 large ships, sir, not one of ours." The room went quiet. This was the moment humans had both hoped for and feared. First contact with aliens. "Send the greeting message," Jack ordered. Earth had prepared for this. A simple message of peace, translated into mathematical language that any advanced species should understand. The alien ships slowed as they passed Mars. Then they sent a reply. The computer took 3 minutes to decode it. "They call themselves the Vraxian Confederation." Ben said, reading the message. "They want to meet with Earth leaders." 2 days later, Jack stood in a meeting room at the United Nations Space Center. On one side of the table sat 5 human leaders. On the other side were 3 Vraxians. The aliens had 2 arms and 2 legs like humans, but their skin was blue-gray and their eyes were large and black. They spoke through translation devices. "Your species is young," said the lead Vraxian. "We have traveled the stars for 10,000 years. We control 3 star systems near yours." The human president smiled politely. "We welcome peaceful contact and hope to learn from you." The Vraxian made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We did not come to teach. We came to inform you that this system has resources we need." The room temperature seemed to drop. Jack felt his stomach tighten. "We can discuss fair trade agreements," the president said carefully. "There is nothing to discuss," the Vraxian replied. "We will take what we need. We are giving you notice as a courtesy." One of the human leaders started to protest, but the Vraxian raised a hand. "Perhaps a demonstration will help you understand." On a large screen, they showed a small research station on one of Jupiter's moons. It was unmanned but valuable. A beam of bright light shot from one of the Vraxian ships. The station didn't explode. It simply disappeared, leaving a glowing crater in the moon's surface. "Energy weapons," Jack whispered to himself. The Vraxians had mastered what humans had only theorized about, weapons that converted matter directly into energy. "We will begin harvesting resources in 3 of your months," the Vraxian said, standing up. "Prepare your people. Resistance would be unwise." After the aliens left, the human leaders looked at each other in shock. "What can we do against weapons like that?" someone asked. Jack thought about the rumors he'd heard about a new metal being developed in a secret lab, a metal that could absorb energy. "There might be something," he said. "I've heard about a project, a new type of metal." The president nodded. "The Morrison Project. It's time to move it from research to application." That night, Alan Morrison received a call that changed everything. The government wasn't interested in careful testing anymore. They needed absorbium, turned into a defense system, and they needed it fast. 3 months. Alan told Kate and Lisa after hanging up the phone. "We have 3 months to figure out how to protect Earth from weapons that can vaporize a moon base." "Can we do it?" Lisa asked. Alan looked at the small piece of absorbium on his desk. "We have to try." The day after the Vraxian threat, Colonel Diane Martinez walked into Alan's lab. She wore a crisp uniform and had a serious look on her face. "Dr. Morrison, I'm here about absorbium," she said. "I understand you've been keeping it secret." Alan nodded. "We wanted to understand it better before telling the world." "Well, the world needs it now," Diane said. She handed him a folder. "This is now a military project. You'll have all the resources you need, but we need results fast." Kate and Lisa joined them as Diane explained the situation. The Vraxians had given Earth 3 months before they would start taking resources by force. Their energy weapons could destroy anything humans had built so far. "Can absorbium really stop their weapons?" Diane asked. "In theory, yes," Lisa said. "But we've only made small pieces in the lab. We need to figure out how to make enough to cover ships and maybe even build armor for soldiers." "That's where I come in," said a man walking through the door. Richard Taylor, manufacturing expert. Richard was tall with rough hands that showed he worked with machines, not just theories. The government had brought him in to help scale up production of absorbium. The problem isn't just making more, Alan explained. We need to understand exactly how much energy it can absorb before it fails. The team worked day and night. They moved to a larger facility with better equipment. Hundreds of scientists and engineers joined the project. They all worked under one goal: make enough absorbium to protect Earth. Richard developed special machines that could create the high pressures needed to make absorbium. At first, they could only make pieces the size of dinner plates. But soon they found ways to make sheets large enough to cover parts of a ship. The molecular structure is the key, Kate said during one late-night session. When energy hits it, the molecules shift to absorb and distribute the force. They tested absorbium against every type of weapon Earth had. Lasers, plasma, even nuclear radiation. Nothing could damage it. The more energy that hit it, the stronger it seemed to become. 2 months into their work, they had their first major test. The team set up a small model of a ship covered in absorbium plating. They aimed Earth's most powerful laser at it, a weapon that could cut through a foot of solid steel. The laser hit the ship model. Everyone watched, holding their breath. The absorbium glowed slightly but remained intact. The ship model was undamaged. "It works," Alan whispered. Everyone in the room began to cheer. Colonel Martinez immediately called Earth Defense Fleet headquarters. "We have something that can stop the Vraxian weapons," she reported. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Every shipyard on Earth and in orbit worked to attach absorbium plating to military vessels. They focused on the most important ships first, the ones that would face the Vraxians directly. "Will it be enough?" Lissa asked Alan as they watched workers install absorbium plates on the flagship, Earth Defense Ship Defiant. "The math says yes," Alan replied. "But the Vraxians have technology we've never seen before. There might be surprises." 3 days before the Vraxian deadline, Captain Matthew Collins received command of the newly armored Defiant. He had been chosen to lead Earth's defense fleet, 20 ships with absorbium plating covering their most vulnerable areas. "We couldn't cover every ship completely," Richard explained during the final briefing. "There wasn't enough time or material. The important parts are protected, but be careful." As the fleet prepared to defend Earth, Alan, Kate, and Lisa watched from the space station. Their discovery would now face its greatest test. "Do you think it will work?" Kate asked quietly. "It has to," Alan replied. "It's the only chance we have." The day the Vraxians returned, Earth's skies filled with worried faces looking up. Everyone knew what was coming. News channels showed the same images, 7 huge alien ships entering Earth orbit. Captain Matthew Collins stood on the bridge of the EDS Defiant. His crew was quiet, each person busy at their station. They all wore the new absorbium-lined vests, though no one knew if they would actually work against Vraxian weapons. "Vraxian ships approaching, sir," reported Officer Linda Hayes. "They're in formation, heading straight for us." Matthew nodded. "All ships, hold position. Remember your training." Earth's fleet was small compared to the Vraxian ships. 20 human vessels against 7 alien giants, but each human ship now had absorbium plating covering its vital areas. "They're sending a message," Linda said. The main screen showed the same Vraxian leader from the first meeting. "Your deadline has expired. We will now begin harvesting Earth's resources. Move your ships aside or be destroyed." Matthew took a deep breath. "This is Captain Collins of the Earth Defense Fleet. We cannot allow you to take our resources. We request peaceful negotiations." The Vraxian made that strange laughing sound again. "Negotiations are over." The screen went dark. Seconds later, the lead Vraxian ship fired. A bright beam of energy shot toward the Defiant. Everyone on the bridge tensed. This was the moment of truth. Would absorbium work against real alien weapons? The beam hit the Defiant directly. The ship shook slightly, but the bridge displays stayed on. There was no explosion, no breach, no damage. Status report, Matthew called. All systems normal, sir, the engineer replied, sounding amazed. The absorbium plating absorbed the entire energy blast. Temperature readings show it's already cooling down. On the screen, they could see the confusion on the Vraxian ship. They fired again, this time at a different human vessel. Again, the energy weapon had no effect. They're firing at every ship now, Linda reported. Testing for weaknesses. For 5 minutes, the Vraxians fired continuously. Their weapons, capable of vaporizing a moon base, did nothing to the human ships protected by absorbium. Matthew allowed himself a small smile. I think it's our turn now. Prepare kinetic weapons. While the Vraxians had focused on energy weapons, humans had kept developing simpler technologies. Solid projectiles, missiles, and railguns. These old weapons now gave Earth an advantage. All ships fire railguns and missiles at designated targets, Matthew ordered. Earth's fleet fired together. Metal projectiles and missiles streaked toward the Vraxian ships. The aliens, used to fighting enemies with energy weapons, had minimal physical shields. The damage was immediate and severe. Direct hits on all targets, Linda reported. Their shields aren't designed for kinetic impacts. The largest Vraxian ship fired again, desperately trying to stop the attack. The beam was stronger this time, but the result was the same. The absorbium plating glowed brighter but held firm. They're retreating, someone called out. On the screen, the damaged Vraxian ships were moving away from Earth, back toward open space. The bridge erupted in cheers. Matthew raised his hand for quiet. This isn't over, he reminded them. They'll be back with new tactics. Back on Earth, Alan, Kate, and Lisa watched the battle from mission control. When the Vraxians retreated, the room burst into celebration. It worked, Kate said, hugging Alan. It actually worked. Alan nodded, but he looked thoughtful. This changes everything. Not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Lisa was already working on her tablet. If we combine absorbium with our offensive weapons, we might create something even more powerful. As Earth celebrated its first victory, scientists and military leaders were already planning next steps. Humans had stumbled upon something that changed the rules of space warfare forever. And the Vraxians wouldn't stay away for long. 1 month after the first battle with the Vraxians, Earth was a changed place. Every factory that could make absorbium was working day and night. The metal that had once been a secret was now the most valuable material on the planet. Laura Bennett walked through her weapons lab, looking at the new designs. Before discovering absorbium, she had been working on energy weapons, trying to catch up to alien technology. Now her team was going back to basics, but with a twist. The railgun test is ready, her assistant said. Laura nodded and put on safety glasses. They were testing a new weapon, a railgun with absorbium components. The railgun used electricity to fire metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The new design used absorbium to capture and store energy, then release it all at once. The test target was a block of solid steel. When Laura pressed the button, there was almost no sound. A metal slug shot out at 15 times the speed of sound. It went through the steel block like it was paper. Perfect, Laura said. Double the power for the next test. Across the world, scientists and engineers were finding new uses for absorbium. It wasn't just for defense anymore. At the Solar Research Center, Paul Harris had made an important discovery. He stood in front of government officials, explaining his findings. Absorbium doesn't just absorb weapon energy, Paul said. It can capture and store any kind of energy, including sunlight. He showed them a small panel covered with a thin layer of absorbium. This panel captured enough solar energy in 1 hour to power a small house for a week. We're talking about energy efficiency that's 50 times better than our best solar panels. The officials looked at each other in excitement. One of them asked, "Can we mass-produce these?" "That's the problem," Paul admitted. "Absorbium is still difficult to make. We need more mining operations to find the rare materials it requires." Within weeks, new mining companies formed. People searched the earth for the elements needed to make absorbium. Old mines reopened. Remote areas suddenly became valuable. Countries that had these elements became important overnight. New trade agreements were signed. The global economy shifted as absorbium became the center of a new industrial revolution. Space stations were built specifically to manufacture absorbium in zero gravity, where certain steps were easier. These stations needed protection, so more ships were built with absorbium plating. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her new ship, the EDS Horizon. It was the first ship built from the ground up with absorbium integrated into its design. Engine test complete, her engineer reported. The absorbium power core is working perfectly. We have 5 times the power of old ships with half the fuel. Maya smiled. Take us out. Let's see what she can do. The Horizon moved away from Earth, faster and more efficient than any human ship before it. Within hours, it reached the moon. What once took days now took hours. Back on Earth, Alan, Kate, and Lisa had become famous. They were invited to speak at universities and government meetings. Companies offered them millions to join their research teams. Did you ever think our accident would change the world like this? Kate asked Alan as they watched a news report about the new absorbium economy. Never, Alan admitted. I was just trying to make stronger metal for ships. Now we're rebuilding our entire civilization around it. Lisa joined them, holding her tablet. And we're just beginning to understand what it can do. Look at these new test results. The screen showed absorbium samples that were changing color as they absorbed different types of energy. It's like the metal is evolving, Lisa said, learning from each new energy source it encounters. As Earth transformed, space telescopes detected Vraxian ships gathering at the edge of the solar system. They weren't giving up. They were planning something new. They'll be back, Alan said. But this time, we'll be ready. 3 months after defeating the Vraxian attack, Earth received a message. It came not from the Vraxians, but from a place called the Galactic Council. Humans had never heard of this group before. They want to meet with us, President Clark told his advisors. They say the council includes representatives from 37 space-traveling species. Ambassador Nancy Wright was chosen to meet with the council. She had worked in diplomacy for 20 years, but never with aliens. Her small ship, protected with absorbium plating, traveled to a space station at the edge of the solar system. When Nancy entered the council chamber, she saw beings of many shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human. Others were completely different, floating clouds of gas or creatures with many limbs. A tall green being approached her. I am Ethan Butler, he said in perfect English. Half human, half Tellurian. I will help you navigate the council. Nancy was surprised. There are other humans out here. A few, Ethan explained. Explorers who went too far and couldn't return. I was born on a Tellurian world to a human father and Tellurian mother. He guided Nancy to a central platform. The chamber quieted as she stepped up. Humans, said a large being with 4 arms. For years, your species has requested membership in the Galactic Council. We denied you because you were too primitive. Now, you have created something that changes everything. Nancy understood. Absorbium. Yes, the 4-armed alien continued. For centuries, the Vraxians have dominated this sector of space. Their energy weapons made them unstoppable. Many council species live under Vraxian control, paying heavy taxes and resources. Ethan whispered to Nancy, the Vraxians aren't popular, but they're powerful. No one could stand against them until now. Nancy gathered her courage. Earth had no knowledge of the wider galactic community. We developed absorbium by accident, but were willing to share this technology with peaceful species. The chamber erupted in excited chatter. Many delegates moved closer, eager to hear more. A small blue alien spoke up. The Vraxians conquered my homeworld 20 years ago. They took everything valuable and left us struggling to survive. If we had absorbium. Similar stories came from other delegates. Nancy realized that Earth had stumbled upon something that many species had been seeking for generations, a way to resist Vraxian dominance. "We propose an alliance," Nancy said. "Earth can provide absordium technology. In return, we seek knowledge, peaceful trade, and protection from Vraxian retaliation." Ethan helped Nancy meet with key council members over the next few days. Trade agreements were drafted, knowledge was exchanged. Earth learned about faster-than-light travel, advanced medicine, and the complex politics of the galaxy. "The Vraxians won't accept this easily," warned a reptilian delegate named Seraph. "They've already lost face by failing to conquer your world. Now you're forming alliances with their subjects. They will strike back." "We're preparing for that," Nancy assured him. "But we need intelligence about their movements and technology." Seraph nodded. "My people live under Vraxian rule. We can provide information." A coalition formed between humans and several other species. Each brought different strengths. Some had advanced computers, others had biological sciences Earth couldn't imagine. But Earth had absorbium, the key that could change the balance of power. When Nancy returned to Earth, she brought representatives from 12 alien species. It was Earth's formal introduction to the galactic community. "This changes everything," President Clark said after meeting the aliens. "We're not alone anymore." Nancy nodded. "But we're also targets now. The Vraxians are gathering a larger fleet. They can't allow absorbium technology to spread." "Then we better spread it faster," the president replied. "The more allies we have, the better our chances." As ships from friendly alien worlds arrived at Earth, humans looked to the stars with new eyes. The universe had become both more wonderful and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. 6 months had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. Absorbium technology had spread to friendly alien worlds. Ships from many planets now traveled safely through space that once belonged only to the Vraxians. Admiral Kevin Davis stood in the war room, looking at a star map showing Vraxian movements. As head of Earth's defense forces, he needed to know what the enemy was planning. "They're gathering ships here, near their home system," Kevin said, pointing to a cluster of red dots. "More than we've ever seen before." His intelligence officer nodded. "We received a message from Sam Roberts. He's been living among the Zoran, who work closely with the Vraxians." Sam was a human spy who had been sent to gather information. He posed as a trader from a distant world, using makeup to hide his human features. "What did he find?" Kevin asked. "The Vraxians have developed a new weapon," the officer reported. "They call it the Overload Cannon. It's designed specifically to overwhelm absorbium's absorption capacity." Kevin frowned. "Do we know how it works?" Sam couldn't get technical details, but they've been testing it on absorbium samples they captured. They think they've found a weakness. This was bad news. Earth's defense strategy depended on absorbium. If the Vraxians could defeat it, everything would change. Kevin called an emergency meeting with the top scientists working on absorbium. Alan Morrison, Kate Williams, and Lisa Patterson attended, along with newer team members. "Is it possible?" Kevin asked after explaining the situation. "Could a weapon overpower absorbium?" Alan looked troubled. "Theoretically, yes. Every material has limits. If you hit it with enough energy at once, it might fail." "But we've never found that limit in testing," Kate added. Olivia Clark, a young engineer who had joined the team recently, raised her hand. "I've been studying how absorbium changes when it absorbs energy. I've noticed something interesting." Everyone turned to look at her. Olivia pulled up images on the main screen showing absorbium's molecular structure. "When absorbium absorbs energy, its molecules actually move closer together," she explained. "The more energy it takes in, the tighter the structure becomes." "So what happens if you hit it with massive energy all at once?" Kevin asked. "That's what I've been testing," Olivia said. "In theory, if you hit it with enough energy, the molecules would pack so tightly that nothing could pass through them. Not even more energy." Lisa's eyes widened. "You're saying that instead of breaking, It might become even stronger. Exactly. Olivia nodded. But we've never been able to generate enough energy to test this theory fully. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent alert. A Vraxian battle group had been detected entering the solar system. They were heading straight for Mars, where Earth had built its largest absorbium production facility. They're moving fast, Kevin said, checking the tactical display. They'll reach Mars in 6 hours. That's too soon to evacuate the facility, Kate said. There are over 3,000 workers there. Kevin made a quick decision. We'll send every available ship to defend Mars. And we need to warn the facility. They might be about to face a weapon we've never seen before. As Earth ships raced toward Mars, the Vraxian fleet continued its approach. Their new flagship was twice the size of any previous Vraxian vessel. In its center was a massive cannon, glowing with strange energy. In the Mars facility control room, workers watched the approaching enemy with fear. The facility's shields were strong, but no one knew if they would hold against this new weapon. On Earth, Alan and his team worked frantically, trying to predict how absorbium would react to the overload cannon. Everything they had learned about the metal was about to be tested. If Olivia's theory is right, Alan told Kate, the Vraxians might be making a terrible mistake. The battle for Mars began at dawn, Earth time. The sky above the red planet filled with ships, Vraxian attackers and human defenders. The massive Vraxian flagship moved into position, its huge cannon aimed at the Mars facility. Captain Daniel White commanded Earth's newest ship, the EDS Guardian. It was the most advanced vessel humans had ever built, with absorbium integrated into every system. The Vraxian flagship is powering up its main weapon, reported his sensor officer. Energy readings are off the charts. Daniel made a quick decision. Move the Guardian between the Vraxian ship and the Mars facility. Sir, that puts us directly in the line of fire, his second-in-command warned. I know, Daniel replied, but our ship has the most absorbium plating. If anyone can survive that weapon, we can. The Guardian took position, its absorbium hull gleaming in the sunlight. The crew braced for impact. On Earth, Alan, Kate, and Olivia watched through the Mars facility's cameras. They saw the Guardian move into the path of the Vraxian weapon. They're sacrificing themselves, Kate whispered. Olivia checked her data. Maybe not. If my theory is right, this might be exactly what we need. The Vraxian overload cannon fired. A beam of blinding energy, more powerful than anything seen before, shot from the flagship. It hit the Guardian directly. The Earth ship shuddered. Its absorbium plating began to glow, first red, then orange, then white-hot as it absorbed the incredible energy. Warning alarms sounded throughout the vessel. Temperature critical, the engineer called out. The absorbium is absorbing more energy than we thought possible. Daniel held tight to his chair. Hold position. How long until the cannon needs to recharge? 30 seconds, based on energy patterns. We just need to last that long, Daniel said. On Earth, the scientists watched in amazement as their instruments measured the energy being absorbed by the Guardian's absorbium plating. It's working, Olivia said excitedly. The molecular structure is compressing, just like I predicted. It's becoming denser. The Vraxian beam continued for 20 seconds, then stopped. The Guardian still floated in space, its hull glowing like a small sun. We're still here, Daniel said, sounding surprised. Damage report. No hull breach, his engineer replied in disbelief. The absorbium plating held. But it's changing. The glowing metal began to pulse with energy. Patterns spread across its surface like ripples in water. What's happening? Daniel asked. No one had an answer. This was new territory. Suddenly, the absorbium released the stored energy, not as heat or light, but as a focused wave that shot back toward the Vraxian fleet. It wasn't a weapon that destroyed, but rather one that disrupted technology. Every Vraxian ship in the wave's path lost power. Their engines died. Their weapons went offline. They drifted helplessly in space. The absorbium didn't just absorb the energy. Ellen realized, watching from Earth, it transformed it and sent it back in a form that disrupts their systems. Within hours, Earth forces had captured the disabled Vraxian ships. For the first time, humans had the upper hand. 2 weeks later, diplomat Grace Miller met with Vraxian leaders to negotiate peace. The terms were fair but firm. The Vraxians would respect the territory of Earth and its allies, and in return, humans would not share the secrets of how absorbium reflected energy. As the treaty was signed, Alan, Kate, and Lisa watched from the back of the room. They had been married a month earlier, a quiet ceremony amid the chaos of war. "It's over," Kate said, squeezing Alan's hand. "Not over," Alan replied. "Just beginning. We've only scratched the surface of what absorbium can do." Above Earth, a new space station was being built. Ships from 30 different worlds docked there, bringing visitors, traders, and diplomats. Humans had found their place among the stars, not through conquest, but through innovation. As the sun set over the Pacific Ocean, Alan looked up at the new station gleaming in the twilight sky. "From an accident in a lab to peace in the galaxy," he said softly. "Not bad for a metal that wasn't supposed to exist."